Liberal. The media, which is supporting the advertising from the Labor and Liberal Party and depends upon them in government for their advertising revenue, say Liberal Labor, Liberal Labor. We had an outstanding candidate. We had many, many outstanding candidates. But we had an outstanding candidate as our leader, James Ashby, in Keppel. Now, James was not invited to the debates. It was only Crisafulli versus Miles. Liberal Labor, Liberal Labor. It's everywhere reinforced. The encouraging thing for me is that the number of people right around Queensland who came out and said, yes, I voted for One Nation. I put you guys 2. We can't afford to have Labor in, so I put Liberals 1. The ignorance of the system and the fact that they were so terrified of Miles becoming Premier again that they voted for Liberals because they didn't want Labor. Now, what we've got to do is a hell of a job encouraging people to vote for One Nation 1, the other minor parties 2, 3, 4, then Liberals before Labor. And we said that this time, but people still could not bear the risk, in their view, of helping Labor. So rather than put the minor parties 1, 2, 3, 4 and then Liberals before Labor, which would have got them more minor party candidates successfully elected, they put the Liberals 1. So that ignorance has got to be sorted out. But the other thing is there is hope, because we've been in the two-party preferred in many seats. We had fantastic results in Gympie with Katie McCallum. We had fantastic results in Cairns with Gina Court, and in many other electorates, and especially in Keppel, where James, I think, came very close to being the two-party preferred. So, you know, it's there. We're on the edge. Yeah, it's just a matter of educating people to show them that vote One Nation 1, other minor parties 2, 3, 4, Liberals before Labor, Greens last.
So, Malcolm, it leads me to an important point. I think if you look at, you've got 2 major parties in Australia, most Western countries, and you have 2 predominant media organisations. Like in Australia, you obviously have the left-wing Fairfax, and you have Murdoch, and Murdoch was always, more supportive of the conservative side. So you either got Labor, Liberal, because they have the media machines behind them. My belief is, even since 10 years ago when we started the Australian National Review, is that unless we have sufficient strength in independent media, it's going to make it very difficult for a credible third party to form government. Because, as you said, it's an educational process. What's your views on that? Do we need a strong independent media? And do you see that happening over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yes and yes. Because we need an independent media, strong independent people's media, truth media, freedom media, for getting the truth out there. Because the mainstream media, the mouthpiece media, the globalist, the Big Brother media is bought and paid for by the Liberals and Labor Party through their advertising, not just in campaigns, but in office. That's where the money comes from the media. Governments put out a lot of propaganda, and they use the mouthpiece media to do so. Social media, you'll notice there are a couple of things I'll mention. I wrote down here, Rogan Benz. Joe Rogan did an outstanding interview with someone called Mike Benz, who worked within the truth campaigning of American media that basically controlled foreign countries and controlled the United States and did their best to stop Donald Trump. Now, it's a stunning interview, so if you go to Joe Rogan's show, Joe Rogan Experience, whatever it's called, and plug in Mike Benz. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes. I rarely watch videos, but this one I thoroughly recommend. I listen to it in the car. That's the only time I get to do something like this. I don't watch it, I can assure you, but I listen to and it's just a stunning interview. It explains the big state control. It explains how the CIA and other this man worked in the entity, so he knows firsthand, and he does a phenomenal job. He's got the facts at his fingertips. The CIA basically controlled the media and established political allies to overthrow governments overseas. And you were talking about Georgia and Romania and other countries a minute ago. We see the same in Ukraine. So we know that was a coup d'etat. We know that. We've had leading American defense experts, defense generals, we've had leading American politicians and diplomats saying in 2014 that what the actions behind the United States overthrowing the duly elected government in Ukraine would lead to war with Putin. They said that. So we've got this going on. what happened with that state-driven control? It involves many different departments. DARPA, the defense. It also involves State Department. It involves the CIA. It involves many. It involves U.S. aid, which is not an aid group, by the way, but it involves many groups. It's a phenomenal. They spend huge amounts, billions of dollars, on overthrowing and on controlling other states, partly for American influence, and that's always been the case. It's the case with most countries, but it's switched into controlling for defense purposes. It's switched into controlling foreign states for access to energy and to deny energy as a way of waging war cheaply. But then it's switched on to defending what they call free speech in America. Trump and the populists and the freedom side, those who opposed COVID injections, which made Big Pharma a lot of money, were sidelined as being the opponents of democracy. So we've got the American state apparatus now, which is controlled largely by the globalists and works for people like Soros and Gates. We've got them now trying to control social media in America. And that's a real danger. But what we're seeing is people, Jamie, woke up so much during the COVID fraud. It wasn't a pandemic; it was a COVID fraud. The virus was real, but it wasn't deadly. It was mismanaged. It was used to steal, to extort money. It was used to kill people. We've got now compelling evidence, scientifically peer-reviewed papers of that fact. It is now a fact. And so these are pushing American interests, and what they're wanting to do is maintain the status quo. And Donald Trump came in despite all the controls they put on him and despite the controls they're putting on social media. But Australians have to wake up to the fact that we are being controlled through social media. I can talk more about that if you want. A suite of 5 bills that are pushed by both Labor and Liberal to maintain control of social media. So that's...
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll just show this to you, Malcolm. This is CNN. Recently this week, all-time low in top demographics for CNN as the leftist staff watched Trump steal the show in this year's election. Cable news pioneer is shredding with pending layoffs on the way. They saw 52,000 viewers go to 34,000 in the 25, 54-year-old demographic, which obviously they lost a lot of the younger Democrats that went to Trump. 52% decline in prime time, measly average audience of 77,000. Overall viewership shrinking to 45%. I mean, CNN's pretty much dead, which I don't think anyone's going to be too sad about. But I think they shouldn't be called media, even though we call them mainstream media. I think as soon as people realize these are not media companies, these are propaganda channels. I mean, the Chinese are always bemused that us Westerners think our media is media, not propaganda, because they know in China that their news is not news, it's propaganda. But the West somehow think we grew up on the news, we trust it, Channel 7, 9, 10, CNN, BBC, ABC. I mean, it's crazy, but they're not news, are they? They're propaganda, would you agree?
I agree with you entirely. Let's have a look at a comment that was made by Mike Benz in the show I was listening to. And by the way, I rarely watch videos, but I listened to. I'm on the second listening of this one. It's so powerful. And to I'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about the ratings. I remember watching the ratings for America when Joe Rogan had his interview with Dr. Robert Malone, who exposed the criminal activities with the COVID injections. CNN was ranked number 9 out of 10 with a viewership of about 700, 800,000, Jamie. Tucker Carlson, when he was on Fox News, got 3.8 million. So Tucker was smashing them. Rogan got 11.8 million. So he absolutely killed it. And what people are realizing is that they will get a diversity of views on Rogan, they'll get a diversity of views with Tucker. And the other thing that really points to the demise of the mouthpiece media, the globalist media, is the fact that when Tucker Carlson was kicked out of Fox News, people thought that's the end of Tucker. No, he took off because he was free to say whatever he damn well wanted, and people like that now. People are loving the truth, so people are coming to the truth. You know, we've got so many controls on free speech in this country now, same in America, partly through the mouthpiece media, but partly through government overreach, manipulating social media. But the best way to handle truth, the exercise of finding truth, is free speech. Let people debate. And what we're seeing, this is the point I want to come to with Mike Benz at the hour and 43 minutes left. He made the point that these days they camouflage the control of the media, they camouflage the propaganda with language. For example, whole of society approach, a democratic approach. When they talk about a democratic approach, Jamie, they're not talking about people's getting their vote protected or people having a say. They're talking about protecting the institutions of control. So if you dare speak against, if you dare make a comment, for one of the examples Mike used was, you're wary of postal ballots? Well, you're flagged as a conspiracy nut job. You're flagged as a right-wing extremist. You're flagged as anti-American. You're flagged as anti-democratic. And what they've now got in America, and this is happening in this country too, they've got a coalition between government departments, not just one or two, right across the government organization under the Democrats, a coalition between them, the mouthpiece media, the globalist media, social media, and the institutes that, like non-government organizations and the universities. Every major university in the United States, the top 100 universities, has got a media control or speech control lab within it, or an entity within it. Every one of them. So we've got strong universities like Chicago, Stanford, having these exercises to control speech. So when you're controlled with a gun, Jamie, then you know you're under control. But when you're controlled by indoctrination from when you popped out of your mum, all your life indoctrination, you don't even know you're under control. And when the mouthpiece media looks like it's free, but they're using propaganda techniques that encourage people to the false belief that they're free when they're not, just by controlling the language, then you don't even know that you're being yelled at with propaganda. It's just so subtle. But people are waking up because they don't trust the government anymore.
Yeah, it's very true. It's amazing that I guess we all have to go through that process of waking up. We don't realize, and we was very trusting, and especially the older generation, the very trusting of the medical establishment, which really caught them off guard with the COVID fraud.